Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Liam's Hockey. Getting set for the Montreal Canadian game tonight. Semifinals, my goodness. We used to take it for granted, didn't we, back in the day? Not so much anymore. It's a rarity when it comes along. And of course, each and every show of Liam's Hockey that we do manage to post, as infrequently as we do them, but we do try and bang them out every now and then, is brought to you by Hosie and Brown Automotive, my dear friend Rod Brown, and my shot of whiskey that I'll be having in just a few minutes' time is brought to you by AdSeal Services, the Eastern Canadian's #1 commercial water treatment facility that can take care of all of your waterproofing operations for any commercial needs at all. AdSeal Services. Mark Cullen, President and CEO. Again, class of 78, St. Pius, always coming through for me, baby. Gotta love it. I'll be doing that toast in just a moment's time, courtesy of Mark. And gonna toast the Habs, of course, as they embark on the semifinals here. And so, look, I mean, everybody's picking Vegas, and rightfully so. The Vegas Golden Knights are poised, I think, to win the Stanley Cup. I did a bracket on NHL.com. My son Rory asked me to do one with his group. I've gotten more than 50% of my predictions have been wrong. The only one that has sailed through so far is Vegas. I've got Vegas winning the Stanley Cup, and I didn't even have Tampa advancing. Of course, I made that at the start of the playoffs, not fully knowing what Kucherov and Stamkos were going to bring to the table. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute as well. But as we all well know, they've looked pretty good up until yesterday, when they've hit a little speed bump here, and I think that's all it'll be. I mean, this Islander team are resilient as hell. I still call Tampa to win this series. They won it in 6 last year. They did not, however, lose the first game last year. In fact, they smoked the Islanders last year, which most of you probably have forgotten. But they won 8-1 or 8-2. I am representing, by the way. There's the colors. Yeah. Gotta go up my squad here for this one. But they smoked the Islanders. In fact, won the first 2 games, ended up taking the series in 6, as we know, and then went on to play Dallas. And wasn't the easiest final to watch. There was a lot of good hockey in the bubble under the unusual circumstances that they did present in Edmonton last year for those 2 months, 9 weeks, whatever it was, and 62, 63 days, whatever it was. Tampa were deserving victor. I don't think anybody needed to put an asterisk on that season. Everybody played no less than 68 games. Most teams played as many as 71. My God, that dwarfed what was played this year, let alone 2 seasons, 1995 and 2013, as we all well know, where Stanley Cups were awarded and playoffs conducted after 48-game regular seasons due to lockouts. So no asterisk last year, none this year. Even less so this year, as teams have been able to play at home, and south of the border, you're getting full houses. So on top of going in against a vastly superior team, you've got these, in some cases, these young members of the Montreal Canadiens who have not played in front of anybody except a couple thousand fans in their barn. And now you're going into the nut house here in Vegas. It's a daunting task, to say the least. This Vegas team are big, tough, talented. Marc-Andre Fleury is every bit as good as Carey Price, maybe slight edge Carey there. The defense on Vegas is substantially better than Montreal's, and that's with Jeff Petrie in the lineup. Shea Theodore and Alex Pietrangelo will be on Team Canada in the Olympics next February. Maybe Petrie makes Team USA. Maybe. And that's a big if. And there ain't anybody else on Montreal that's going to get a sniff of a national team. Down the road, maybe Romanov, but certainly not in 2022, do I believe. And look, the Canadians have been scoring by committee here on these 4 lines. They've got a lot out of the graybeards with Armia, that being Stahl, who is, I remember when Stahl dressed in Game 1 against Toronto, and I was so upset that they didn't put in They didn't put in Cole Caulfield, was the one that was the biggest one. KK, I didn't really have a problem with. He finished so brutally at the end of the season as the Canadians backed into the playoffs. Then they get him in, and Caulfield gets going with Suzuki, and, well, we know what the results have been, but that's going to hit the wall here. I mean, that Stone Pacioretty-Stevenson line is their number one line. Absolute dynamite. You're coming back with Marcia Show. You're coming back with William Karlsson. You're coming back with Alex Tuck. I mean, these guys, they're deeper. They've got better offensive skills. Their defense is substantially better than Montreal's. The specialty teams, look, the Habs have been doing it right now. Their penalty killing through these first 2 rounds has been exceptional. That's really going to be put to the test. And just the pace of play and the structure, the overall structure of the Canadiens versus Vegas. There's no metric that would suggest this is a series the Canadiens can win. So I was doing a little research, just really, it's something I could do in my head, but I wrote it down just sort of to be able to present it to you a little bit more succinctly. And I went back to 2012, 2013. So that was the last year that we had a lockout in the NHL. So that was a 48-game season, as you guys all well remember, I'm sure. And the Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup in a pretty good final against the Boston Bruins. I mean, they scored 2 goals in Game 6 in 17 seconds to go on and win the Cup. The Bruins had the lead. That was in the dying minutes. Otherwise, that puppy's going 7 games, and who knows? Maybe Boston ends up with this current, what's left of their nucleus, the perfection line and whatnot, with another Stanley Cup. As it is, it's another trip to the final for them, and another one that they had just a couple years ago as well. But going back to 2012, 2013, so that's 9 seasons. And in that time, 16 different teams have gone to the semifinals in 9 seasons. 16. No, 17. 17 went on to the semifinals. 17 have gone to the semifinals since 2012-13, the last lockout. 6 of those went on to win the Stanley Cup. Point being, since the last lockout, including that season, 2012-2013, 11 teams made a one and only trip to the semifinals. Now, Montreal is making their second. They are in that group. They went in 2014, lost Carey Price first game. Still gave the Rangers hell and lost in 6. Rangers went to the final, lost to LA in 5 games, with 3 of them going in overtime. So under Marc Bergevin, that was really Montreal's best shot with Carey Price. Now, he got hurt, and he's had injuries. Now he's playing maybe arguably, if not the best, the second best stretch of hockey of his career. And they're going to need a reincarnation here of George Hainsworth, Bill Durden, Jacques Plante, Ken Dryden, go down the line. Steve Penny, Patty Roy, Jose Theodore, everybody but Red Lake Rassico. You can put them all together, and that's what he's going to have to play like in this series here right now, because it's going to fall back to him. Territorially, they're going to get outplayed badly, I think, and on the scoreboard as well. They're just not going to be able to match up. And look, have they been doing it with smoke and mirrors? Well, they've had a lead. These 7 straight wins that they've had. Imagine coming back, administering Toronto their worst defeat in franchise history in the playoffs. Then you sweep the Jets with all of the drama and theatrics that went on there. You sweep the Jets. And Mark Scheifele. Jesus, buddy. I will be cheering for you next February when you play for Canada, but you have left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth. And I know there still are a percentage of people out there who think that hit either was clean, which means you're either sick, deranged, or have an agenda, or you're just a hater, or you realize that it was a dirty hit and he shouldn't have gotten 4 games. And maybe that's debatable, but the fact that he's showing no contrition, no remorse, nothing apologetic at all towards Evans. And in fact, it was more a woe is me thing post-series was really baffling. I was really surprised. I don't know the guy personally at all, but I've been a big fan of him as a player since he came in the league. And I'm telling you, he's a lock for Team Canada, an absolute lock for Team Canada. But that was disappointing for sure. So the Canadiens have rolled 7 straight games. In fact, they're number 2 all-time NHL history in the playoffs, either holding a lead or not trailing. It's unfreaking believable. They're 55 minutes back in the 1960 Habs. That probably comes to a crashing end tonight as well. But you know what? At the end of the day, as I said, 17 teams going to the semis. 11 teams. Could be Anaheim. It was Ottawa in 2017, right? That great run they had and losing to the Penguins in double OT. They're probably, of the 11 that didn't win a cup in these last 9 seasons, that made one trip or more to the semifinals, Ottawa was the one that did the best, that extended the series the most of the others, that at least really there was no shame in them being there. Not that there's shame in Montreal being there, but the contention by me and others all along is that this throwing together North Division for COVID purposes has been the weakest division in the NHL. I believe is about to be proven. Now, can the Canadians disprove that? That's the one side of the coin. Fleury's as good as Price. The defense, Vegas defense, twice what Montreal's defense is. Structurally, they're twice what Montreal is. They have better scoring, and I think the specialty teams in a one-on-one battle, Vegas are going to win all day. They got home ice advantage with a full crowd. How are you beating those guys 4 out of 7? It ain't happening. It ain't happening. There's no rhyme or reason or way that I can see this is a series the Montreal Canadiens can win. Play on house money anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Limped into the playoffs, weren't supposed to beat Toronto, down 3-1, smoked them, smoked the Jets. The crowd's going crazy. Half fans are going nuts. I've enjoyed the ride. My son and I, we text during the games. It's been a lot of fun. And look, I just hope they give Vegas a series somehow. Keep the games close, maybe steal a win. And who knows? If nothing else untoward happens, I don't see any metric where Montreal can win this series. So that's why they play the games, and we'll see what happens. I mean, if the Habs could score first again, can you imagine? If they got another lead tonight for the 8th straight game against a third different team in the 3rd straight series, got another lead tonight, what that would do for their psyche in front of that crowd. And that's the other thing. You got so many guys. It's Suzuki and Caulfield are kids, man. KK, these are 20-year-old kids. I think the future's bright to an extent in Montreal, but that's a whole other story for another time. Now, we'll get down the road here when we get through the Stanley Cup. But for now, had to get my thought out on the Habs. I did not predict them to win either against Toronto or Winnipeg. So, right now, even as a Habs fan, I'm eating it because they have proved me wrong. And Tyler Toffoli has said, look, we know it's us really against the world. Nobody in the media, for sure, has picked them in either of these series. The majority of hockey fans outside of hardcore Montreal fans have not picked them. So why not keep it going, they would say. And look, I mean, they can roll 4 lines. And I think you look at, for example, that last game at Colorado where they got beat out and had the lead momentarily against Vegas. Grubauer was horrible. There's one thing I did say at the start of the playoffs that was my one question mark for Colorado down the line is, would he be able to hold up? As you advance down the line and things get that much tougher, you need the goaltending. I said that last Liam's Hockey and went into some examples of that. So I think this is just a huge issue that Colorado really got to deal with now going forward. They've got other issues as well, contractually, to sit down and work out. But, I mean, they got McKinnon on maybe the best contract in the NHL. But if he's number 1, then Tyler Toffoli's probably, if not number 2, number 3. So, that said, Grubauer was terrible. What the hell was going on that first goal? Holy Jesus. I still don't know. I didn't see any post-game, post-series presser where he explained how he got confused and lost track of the puck. He's looking in the corner. It's at the point. It's flipping in. Goes through him under his legs. I mean, half those goals shouldn't have gone in. You got to think at this point, the way he's played, Carey Price is going to put up a better showing. I think Mark Stone and Pacioretty are going to get a big-time dose of Deneau and Lehkonen and Gallagher. And as much as Ducharme can get him out there without last change. So, got some interesting, as always, especially when you get to the semis, the game within the game. If you watch the Islanders in Tampa yesterday, this Islander team are possessing a whole different set of obstacles. Unlike last year, their structure is so much more succinct and on point right now compared to last year. I still cannot see Tampa losing this series. Vasilevsky, for the first time, had a hiccup in the pipes as far as I'm concerned. I don't think those were good goals that he got beat on. And so look, it's a best of 7 for a reason. And, Tampa lost game 1 in the final against Dallas last year, came back and won. They've faced all sorts of adversity. They are one of the teams with multiple trips to the semifinals in this 9-year run. They have been good and relevant and a top team for a decade. And they're defending Stanley Cup champs till somebody beats them out. So I still like their chances in that series, but maybe that's going to go deep again. Like I said, went 6 last year. Would not be surprised to see it go 6 or 7 again this year. Montreal, Vegas, I just trying to sit here and wave the pom-poms. Got the jersey on. Hardcore Habs fan my whole life, but I just can't see any metric where Montreal wins. I think they go into the vacuum of one of these teams that's gone to the semis in the last 9 seasons and then just disappeared quietly in the night. Carolina Hurricanes would be another one. Look, the San Jose Sharks have gone there. Go down the line. There's a ton of teams that have rolled in what I call it the double Ferris wheel. You've probably heard me say it before. This is a Liam trademark explanation. So you've probably all been on a double Ferris wheel at some point or another. I think I was only on one in my life, and it's one of the greatest times because I was with Pete Bisbee and his girlfriend, Julie MacArthur at the time, who he later married. And they had 3 boys, and I think even their grandparents now, but dear friends. And this was in 1985, and we were at the CNE to see Bruce Springsteen. First time I've seen him live on the Born in USA tour. And Bizzard and I had a small bag full of beer that that Julie helped us smuggle onto this double Ferris wheel. And you guys know how it works. So you go up and it spins around and the whole thing comes down and you don't know wherever you're going to be at the thing. I said to Bizzard and I, we got to chug probably about 4 each here to make sure this bag's empty before we get off this ride. No big deal. 1985, you kidding? I had that for breakfast. So we did it. But it never left my mind that at any given time, as you're on that ride, you could be spinning and you wouldn't go down to the ground. You spun at the top still. It spun within the top and then it would go all the way down. So I always use that analogy for NHL teams. Is your challenge is to stay in that top Ferris wheel and not go down to the bottom. Like Ottawa has done after their trip to the semifinals. Like the Anaheim Ducks. Go down the line, right? The majority of those teams, of the 17 that have made a trip to the semis in 9 years, including Montreal in 2014, all went back down to the bottom of the Ferris wheel. So now the Habs have come back up. And they're in the top one again. And they're circling. And that's me and Bizzard, and we're having another pint. And can they stay there? Can they hang around? Can they pull off the miracle and get through to the final? So that's the analogy that I use there. And I don't see any hockey metric where Montreal wins this series, but certainly you never know, because sometimes that Ferris wheel just stays there, baby. Anyway, last comment here. I want to get out of here, and a couple things to do before game time. In fact, I'm taping a podcast, the Suspendables, with my dear friend Jim Jerome and Russ Courtnall. Doing that in about an hour's time. So I don't know if if they edit that and put that up tonight. Heading over to Stevie Warren's house. We're going to bang that out, and really looking forward to that. It'd be great to be on with Jim and Russ. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, last comment on the Tampa Bay Lightning salary cap issue. I don't know why all the consternation. It's a loophole that is there. Other teams have exceeded it as well. Nobody's done it to the extent they have by whatever it is, $18 million or something. We all know the story. Really, what is the only real concern? Did they hide Kucherov? Did they either delay his surgery or actually hide the extent of the injury so that they could wait until the start of the playoffs where everybody is eligible to play, no matter what their salary is? And you can be $1 billion over the cap and it doesn't matter. And I just find it really hard to believe that they did. It's not like they were really ever in a threat to miss the playoffs, but they also weren't really a threat, especially the last 5-6 weeks of the season, to win the division. They kind of just cruised, right? I mean, they just kind of cruised. I mean, Carolina, I think, were full measure, and Florida were a hell of a team. Once you added Kucherov and Stamkos to that, Tampa have rolled, and Carolina and Florida were both made to look relatively ordinary, right? So the loophole exists. They didn't break any rule that could be finable or anything could be like Arizona did with the combine issue and all the punitive measures that were taken against them, which probably in no uncertain terms left to the departure of that Johnny Chaka, whatever his name was there, the Arizona calculator. Kyle Dubas is the Toronto one. And, I mean, that's a shit show there. But Tampa hasn't done that. So, I mean, unless the league addresses this and tries to figure out a way to make it either a hard cap, either come playoff time as well, and I don't know, that's above my pay grade. But right now, I've got zero problem as a hockey fan with what Tampa's done. Zero. And if they get beat out, they get beat out. If they go on to the final, they go on to the final. If they win back-to-back cups, good on them. I mean, they've been one of the top teams for a decade. It's not like this has been a repetitive procedure for them. They ran into some salary cap issues. Believe me, I think if Toronto could have had a similar situation and figured out some way, all they had to do was find anybody who could play with some heart, and maybe they might have got by the Montreal Canadiens. Not only were they so much ahead of them in the regular season, but you got a 3-1 lead, you win 4-0 in Game 4, and you still can't get a W. Oh, man, it's going to be a long time living that down. You got to get a series win there in Toronto. Then the CN Tower puts up the color of the Habs, and now they're doing it in Niagara Falls as well. Two massive homes of Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and they're going Hab colors. I mean, you got to love it. Anyway, we got to get out of here, and that's my take on Tampa Bay. I don't get the angst. I believe that it's a loophole that exists. Other teams have exceeded it. I believe Chicago did in one of their cup-winning years. Haven't researched that, but I believe they did. And if they don't close it, and if you can carry somebody and figure out a way, allegedly the NHL investigated to ensure that medically Kucherov was where he was. That's what I believe. I read that. So did they delay his operation so in fact it would take him through this abbreviated 56-game season? I just find that so freaking hard to believe that they would go to him, he would agree to do it, and just come back. And this was unrelated to salary cap issues, but I remember Peter Forsberg doing this with Colorado in the early 2000s. He missed the whole season, came back, tore it up for the Avs in the playoffs, and but there was no salary cap then, so there's no reason to hide. I'm just saying, look, guys have done this and have come back, and superstar players and have come back and performed admirably or exceedingly well, as Kucherov has right now, albeit notwithstanding yesterday's performance. Look, cut him a little slack. First game of the semis, and they didn't play their best. Islanders were structurally sound, and Islanders got the better goaltending. Vasilevsky didn't have a solid night. The big line for Tampa didn't have a great night, so be it. I got no problem with it. None whatsoever. The NHL does change it. Otherwise, to me, rock and roll. Rock and roll with that. So I'm going to continue having, until the Canadiens get beat out or win the Stanley Cup, losing the final, I'm going to go with John's signal hill here. I mean, I figure this is Canadian whiskey at its best. And Montreal Canadiens are the last Canadian team standing, so what better drink to have a shot with 10? And I'm going to toast the Habs. And I got to tell you one more quick story before I get out. So the Canadiens sweep the Jets. I'm driving in to see my kids the next day, Rory and Shanna. No, I wasn't. I was driving to see my brother Sean. I was driving to bring some stuff to my brother Sean, who's back at work. He had some inflamed, he had an inflamed knee there. He's some time off work. Had to bring him some stuff. He's going back on the job. My phone rings. It's Yvon Cornway. Not kidding. Yvon Cornway, my favorite player of all time. Now, I think most of you know Yvon. I have become pretty good friends. And I'll tell you what, it was a massive treat. Now, he was giving me a call for a couple reasons. Evelyn, his fantastic wife, who's also a dear friend of mine, had said, you've got to phone Liam, because I had asked Yvon to come to Rideauview, my home golf course, and be a part of our member guest this year, which of course, sadly due to COVID, we've had to postpone now for the second year in a row. But Yvon was scheduled to come, so we were going to talk about that, but he also wanted to ask me how I was feeling after the Canadian victory, which I thought was so cool. We talked in depth about Guy Lafleur, and I said, wow, Guy looks so good on the screen, Yvon. I said, yeah, but man, that chemo's taking a toll. So you're hearing this now, pretty good source, and I don't think this news has necessarily been put out publicly, but Guy is still taking a lot of chemo treatments, and Yvon says it really kicks the hell out of him. And most of you probably know this. You've had family or friends, sadly, who have gone through this. And yeah, in a lot of cases, it's part of the procedure and to get back on track and get back to good health. This is Guy's second bout here with the dreaded cancer, and he did look good on the screen, and Yvon said, say a prayer, because chemo's taking a hell of a toll on him. But so we phoned me, we talked about Guy, we talked about the Habs, talked about the fact the golf tournament's been postponed, and then he said, Liam, I had a dream. I actually had a dream. The Canadians won the Stanley Cup, and Evelyn said, well, you better give Liam a call. So, hey, if Yvon Cordoyer is dreaming that the Habs are winning the Stanley Cup, who am I to say that maybe they're not gonna? I mean, let's just have some fun with it, and hopefully it's a good series. So, on behalf of that, Hosie and Brown Automotive, Rod Brown, Ad Seal Services, Mark Cullen, and the help of Guy Lafleur, and the success to date of Le Canadien de Montréal. Here's hoping for a great series and success of my Habs and your Habs. And let's go, everybody, and enjoy. G'day.